I'd been a high performer my whole life. You know, I graduated early from high school and college and went to the Marine Corps and like got a master's degree and
Right. So let me give you guys a little backstory to our listeners.
Yes.
I feel like it was 100 years ago. Do you?
It does feel like a very,
very long time ago.
In a galaxy far, far away.
Literally in another planet.
Yeah.
Legit.
Known as Texas.
Also known as Texas. And you know I love everything about Texas. All right. So Talia and I went to coaching school together.
We did.
We went through a year course where we went online, and then we met quarterly in Austin, Texas.
Yep.
Right? So can I tell you what I remember from the very first time I met you?
Oh, Lord. Yes, please.
Okay. So they break us into I guess it's like a little like kindergarten. Stand up, say your name, tell your favorite color.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Show and tell.
Little like Buddy the Elf. What's your favorite color? Right? Talia stands up. She is stunningly beautiful, as you can all see. Stunningly beautiful. And she just has this air about her that this woman is a fucking badass. She's a badass, right? Nobody loves a badass more than Deb.
Aw.
Ever. Just like so amazing. The very first day we had lunch together, right? And this incredible relationship has formed.
Yeah.
And I honor, truly, I just want everybody to know, the listeners to know that you're not just a friend. You are a soul sister.
Yes, we are part of the soul sister
We are
group.
part of the soul sister group. And your coaching is far beyond any. And listen, now I'm working with like professional coaches, like big people. And yours is by far the most quality coaching I have ever seen.
That means so much to me. Thank you.
Yeah.
Especially given the likes of like who you're talking to and working with now, that means a lot. So thank you.
Yeah.
I'm super, super blessed by our friendship. You are someone who just inspires everyone around you. And I feel like, you know, through the process of becoming coaches, you know, being forged by fire, you know, and in those
Truth.
groups, like you and I connected, I think, on our authenticity.
Yeah.
And our willingness to have real deep conversations.
Yes.
To be vulnerable, you know, in a time and place where not everybody is willing to show up like that.
Truth.
Everyone wants to, I think, have the veneer of I've got it all together. I'm a coach, right?
Right, exactly.
I'm here to help you fix your life. And you and I are like, here we are.
Right. Oh, by the way, I'm a shit show. Can we get a margarita for lunch?
Well, I think that's where we actually
I don't have a
bonded
pen, Talia.
is after class, we would go to the hotel bar. And we
And the first hotel was like, my good God, I wouldn't let my dog check into that hotel.
It was special.
It was special. And then we got moved to Bougieville, right? But
Yes.
in the process, like you literally, you have to. And we're gonna go into your past too, and you can tell little people why you're such a badass and why I have the utmost respect for you. You got to check your ego at the door. You know, you can't go in there with, which you know that wasn't easy for everybody. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Yes,
right?
I do.
Like you got to go in there knowing that coaches are so well respected now and so needed. You know, and have taken such a pivotal role from traditional therapy because we believe we move people forward.
Well, and not to knock, you know, other coaches, but I think there's also there's not a ton of oversight on the industry. And so there's a lot of people who call themselves coaches, but who haven't really been through any type of rigorous training.
Right.
And I think part of what separates, you know, you and me in certain ways is that we went through a year-long
And
program.
rigorous is, listen, and you were in the military, man. So you
Was,
know what
yes.
rigorous means.
Yeah. I mean, it was a lot of work, and we had a lot of coaching hours. We had a lot of accountability. You know, those mentor coach calls where they just pick you apart on everything. Like those were
Everything.
so difficult, and hard to receive feedback in the
Totally.
moment, to be on a timer. Like,
Right.
we went through the coaching gauntlet, but I truly believe we went through one of the best training programs
Absolutely.
out there.
The highest standard of coaching training.
Yeah, so I think that, especially once you have like a social media presence and you start getting out there, you realize there's a lot of people who call themselves coaches who have
Right.
no
formal
certificate,
training.
no formal training, no oversight. And it can kind of give coaching a bad name if it's not done correctly. And I know plenty of people. I personally have been burned by people who call themselves coaches.
Sure.
And
Well, I've actually run across people that were calling themselves advisors. But now because coaching is the term. So we do definitely encourage people that if you're hiring a coach, you get credible, well-trained people. And I mean, we were well trained.
Yeah, we were.
Yeah, no doubt. It was an intense program. So with this intense program, like, of course, with anything else, we had an amazing group of people.
We did.
I can tell you we truly had. But Talia and I became really just dear friends. And I still, to this day, admire your coaching style.
Oh, thank you.
Talk a little bit about it.
I don't, it's funny. People have asked me that a couple of times. I'm like, I don't really have a coaching style other than what I know, which is to hear what people are not saying.
Yes.
So much of coaching and so much of the active listening that we do is listening for what people are not saying. It's not the words that are coming out of their mouth. It's, their body language. It's the lump in their throat as they're swallowing back something. And you're like, oh, tell me, like, what's coming up for you there? Things they don't want to talk about. Right. And so you're paying such close attention all the time. And, I think the other piece to it is I'm not here to waste time.
Right.
My coaching style is very right between the eyes.
Right.
And I'm going to tell you, I always ask permission from my clients, like, how do you like to be coached? How do you like to be held accountable? Like, it's very important to establish that rapport up front as you're building that coaching relationship. But when we get going, I'm going to call you out. Yeah. I'm going to call you out right between the eyes. And that's just kind of my coaching style. And that's not for everybody.
Right.
But the clientele that I tend to work with, they tend to be Gen X, they tend to be male, they tend to be former military. So I feel like my style translates really well within that group of people.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because, you've had that experience too. But I feel I'm a lot like you. I coach a lot like you. Here's my deal. You're spending a lot of money for time with me. And what is different than therapy and coaching is, we're holding space to hear the story, but then we're moving forward.
Right.
Because that's obviously not working. So.
Or they can work in tandem, but they have two different purposes. Like,
right.
For the audience who doesn't know, therapy is mostly centered in the past, like healing past hurts.
Yes.
We want to understand why. We're doing a lot of digging into the past, whereas coaching is all about looking at the pattern in our present, and then understanding the thoughts, feelings, and emotions that inform that pattern, break that pattern, and then how do we move momentum? How do we gain momentum? How do we move the needle forward?
Yes.
So we care about the why, but only in the context of where we're going.
Right.
So we're not endlessly sitting, and I've done therapy many times in my life. I've gone back to therapy multiple times, and I've had coaches, and they're just two different modalities that serve two different purposes.
Right. Amen. That was beautiful. And, even now, like Coach Burt says, you're an idiot if you don't have a coach.
I 100% agree with that.
Totally agree.
I don't know why everyone on the planet doesn't have a coach.
Oh.
To me,
I think you should be born with a coach. Instead of a social security number,
you just have a coach.
I think you have a coach. Like, here's your coach. This woman, this person is going to elevate you to your best freaking self.
Well, that's the thing. It's like we all say, we want to be the best versions of ourselves. We idolize these athletes and these singers. We're here in Nashville. Like, everyone wants to be a performer. Everyone's trying to make it. But then we all have this idea that we're just going to make it on our own.
Yeah.
And
it's completely untrue.
You can't see your own blind spots. They always say, think outside the box. You are your box.
Right.
You know,
truly.
Like, you are the box. You have to tap into someone else's box in order to garner their ideas, their energy. Like, you have to expand your box.
Yes.
In order to be an elite performer. And these days, even if you're working a 9 to 5, you're a corporate athlete. Like, our brains are being asked to do things in the span of an 8-hour day, which that's a whole other conversation. But in the span of an 8-hour day, our brains are being required to do things that they never were asked to do like 40, to 100 years ago.
Right.
Like, the landscape, the technology landscape has completely changed, and yet we're all like,
everything. We've had to pivot.
Yeah, and yet we're sitting here, like, I'm fine on my own. I can figure out all these things.
Right.
So it was funny. I was talking to somebody who used to be a missionary in Papua New Guinea, and I was asking her what it was like coming back to the States. And she said, it's so interesting. Life is infinitely more comfortable and infinitely more complex here in the States. Oh.
Very profound. Very true.
Yeah.
Very true. Right. And navigating the waters. And I coach clients that are trying to stay at the top of their game, right? Mm-hmm. And I also coach people through everyday things.
Yeah.
Like marriages breaking up and children growing and how to start over and pick yourself back up. And I think I don't know how you could do it without it. I don't know how I did it without a coach.
Yeah.
And every good coach has a coach.
Probably multiple, yeah.
Yeah, I have multiple coaches, right? And everyone grateful for, because I've now morphed myself into a completely different person than the chick you even met sitting in that crappy hotel room.
Don't even recognize that girl.
That girl still drinks the same wine.
She does.
Cheers to that,
Cheers.
My wine buddy.
I loved how when you were talking about me coming on, you were like, and we're going to drink white so it doesn't stain our teeth.
I know.
Like,
well, listen, let's go back to the basics, right? I mean, come on. First of all, this is, it was so funny. Everyone's like, you're doing a podcast, so no one's going to see you. I'm like, nope, that's not how we do podcasts anymore.
It is definitely
right. And
not.
I'm so happy that everyone got to see your beauty and your sparkle. So I'm happy that you're doing that. But yeah, truth. I mean, I think that it is so important to have a coach, or, I think one session just makes you open your mind to possibilities.
Yeah.
That so many people are stuck.
So many people. I have 1-hour consults with prospective clients, and they break down to me on the phone just talking about life, and you realize everyone's carrying the same burdens.
Yes,
everyone's
we're all the same
got
people.
The same problems. It doesn't matter. I've talked to people who are living in Section 8 housing. I've talked to people who work at JP Morgan and make $500,000 a year. There is no difference.
We all have the same stuff.
We're all human. We're all going through the same stuff. And it's reassuring to know that you're not alone. I'm a big fan of the phrase, you are unique, but you are not special.
Yes.
And I find that to be so empowering, because if someone else has the same problem as you and they were able to figure out a way through it.
Yes.
Right? And come out the other side, then that means there's hope for you and there's hope for me.
Right.
This problem is not special to me, right? I'm not the only one on this planet with this problem. In fact, some people have definitely had it way, 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 way worse and have even overcome even more insurmountable odds, and they've made it to higher levels. So I find that to be super aspirational.
Yeah. And very humbling. I find that really humbling.
Yeah. It's not an affront. You are unique. You have intrinsic value as a human, but you're not special.
No. Some people think they're special. And I think the biggest thing I find, if we're breaking it down to what it really is, it's all fear-based.
Yeah.
We're just corely afraid.
100%. And it's usually the same 4 or 5 fears, like fear of what other people will think.
Yes.
Fear of failure, fear of success, fear of judgment, fear of financial insecurity.
Right.
It's really one of,
it breaks down into that.
To like those basic 5 fears. And so once you realize that, you can hack it.
You can do anything.
Yeah.
When you figure out that fear is your base, you can hear it coming from the other room.
Yeah.
And then you can use your tools to stop it.
And most people, I don't know what your experience is, but I've found that most people don't even know and can't quite articulate what it is that they're afraid of.
Right.
It's just some nebulous fear cloud looming in the back of their mind. It's like, well, what if I fail?
Right.
Okay, what is failure?
Right.
Okay, let's break that down. Probability speaking, like statistically speaking, how likely is it that this thing, which is usually I'm going to be homeless and everyone will hate me, right?
Right.
How statistically plausible is that? Oh, like less than 10%?
Right.
Okay, so you are preventing yourself from doing X, Y, Z because of a less than 10% or 2% or whatever the percentage is. Like, probability of this actually happening? How sad.
Sad, right? And we don't realize that until somebody breaks it down.
Yeah.
90% of the things we worry about never even come into our lives.
Yep. I would even say 99.9.
Yeah. And we worry. That's so much energy, right? So much energy. And we don't even realize it. So Harvard study, I don't know if you and I talked about this in one of our chats on the phone. My generation, right? Our biggest worry was financial stability, roof over our head.
That tracks.
401k, money in the bank. Where do I live? What am I going to do? This generation, they're 92% of them. Their biggest fear is what other people think of them.
Oh, I believe that. That was my biggest fear.
Right?
Still is something I work
Really?
through.
Let's talk about that.
Yes, let's do it. Let's get into it.
Let's have another sip of wine.
Yes.
And let's get into it.
Cheers.
Cheers, my friend. So, tell me what that feels like.
Well, a little bit of context about me. So I was in the military. I was in the Marine Corps as an officer for 6 years. So I got out in 2019 as a captain, and I went right into federal contracting, as most former military officers do, especially because I was living in the D.C. Beltway circuit. So, you know, I get out of the military. I was supposed to go work for General Dynamics, ended up working for a small consulting firm, had a client in the Pentagon, right? So my dad makes so much fun of me because I would call him. He's like, how was your day today? I was like, oh, you know, I had a meeting in the Pentagon. And he was like, oh, I had a meeting in the Pentagon. Like, but, you know, when you're in D.C., like.
Well, that sounds so intimidating to me.
Right? But
I'd be like, well, I'm going to take a meeting anywhere but the Pentagon.
Right? Seriously. It's not as sexy as it looks on the show.
I think I would be terrified.
The fact that people in these TV shows are like walking down the hall texting.
Right,
the
texting.
Pentagon. I was like,
In
there's no
power
Wi-Fi
suits.
signal. There's no Wi-Fi signal.
For a reason.
Right. And God help you if you walk around the Pentagon in heels. That's a whole other story. But, you know, I say all that to say I was making really good money.
Right.
I was living in one of the wealthiest, you know, places to live in the U.S.
It's a lot of money in that area.
It's a lot of money in that area. I was making a very cushy salary. I was single at the time. I had a great group of friends. I had a great job. I worked for a great company. I had great coworkers, and I was miserable.
Yeah.
Miserable. And I couldn't understand why, because I had the 401k.
Right.
And I had the nice apartment.
Right.
And I could
You
buy
had the cute heels.
Yeah, I had the
Talia's
cute
always dressed like a badass. So, you knew she was totally color coordinated in the Pentagon.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah, I know. I put a lot of money into my wardrobe, and then COVID hit 6 months later, and I never got to wear any of it because we all went to a work from home model. But
right. Then we learned that ponytails and
sweatpants
were your new best friend.
Yes.
Until you went to put jeans back on. Then they're not your new best thing.
Be very flattered.
Right.
I wore jeans for you today.
I love it. I love it.
But yeah, so all that to say, you know, I was miserable, but I felt like I couldn't quit because this is the dream. This is what everyone hopes for, right? Yeah. I had a master's degree that was paid off from the military. You know, I was 26 and, you know, I was making really good money.
Right.
After a whole career in the Marine Corps. So like here I am, my whole life's ahead of me. I'm young, I'm single, and I was just so unhappy. And, you know, through that process, you know, I met my husband. We got married. We decided to move to Nashville 2 weeks after our wedding. That was crazy. And like this gnawing feeling at me this whole time just wouldn't go away. Like, what am I doing? Yeah. What am I doing with my life? And I had this moment where I was facilitating a meeting between our software developers and our client, like our stakeholders. I have no background in IT, but I had just learned IT jargon. Like I could translate the developer speak into English,
Right,
like
right,
for
right.
someone to
Right.
understand, like
Translate.
like a layman to understand. And the words that were coming out of my mouth, it was like an out of body experience where I was like, what am I saying? How do I know this? Like, if I'm not careful, I've been in this job for 3 years. If I'm not careful, this is going to be what I'm known for. Like, this is going to be on my resume, and then I'm going to transition into another project management role, and like I'll continue to just
You set that
be
ball
in
on
this vein.
fire.
Yeah, and I was like, I hate this. Like, what am I doing
Right.
with my life? And that really kicked off, you know, this existential crisis where I started asking myself, you know, what do I want to be when I grow up? Really, truly.
Right.
And you know, what does that look like outside of a really cushy paycheck potentially? What does this look like outside of, you know, the respected professions
Right,
that
right.
people expect from you when you've been a high achiever your whole life? And I just started writing things down. And you know, I was talking with a friend of mine who ironically is a psychologist, and she's like, you know, I feel like you'd be a really good executive coach.
Yeah.
I said, great. What is that? Like,
Talk to me about that, cool girl.
I had no idea like what coaching was outside of a
Right.
sports context. And
Right.
so I just started Googling, as one does, and I found IPEC, the program that you and I were a part of. And you probably remember that first in-person meeting that we had when we were all
Yes.
introducing ourselves. It's like, hi, I'm Talia. Like, I hate my job and I'm thinking about doing this full time, but I have this other job and I don't know what I'm doing. And my plan at the time was to continue with my consulting job and build a coaching business concurrently. And I had no creative energy to do that whatsoever. And so,
Well, when you're living your life in a place that you don't belong, it will just suck you dry.
it'll sap everything from you.
It will. It will take every ounce of energy to even get through the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I look back now and I'm like, I think I was functionally depressed
Yeah,
at that time.
no doubt.
So anyway, all that to say, through a lot of conversations with my husband and my family, my brother had also just recently quit his job and had become a freelancer entrepreneur and was killing it. Like in 3 months, I think he doubled his salary or something. He was doing so well. And so he was like, you just got to quit. You just got to quit.
I remember this
right?
quitting of the job. Yes.
And so
I totally remember this quitting of the job. Your husband is the most supportive human being.
He really is.
Yeah, we'll get back to him because he's his own little section in this. But yes, he is such an incredible, selfless, love you more than anything on the face of this earth.
Yeah.
And wants to see you grow.
I literally would not be where I am without his support. But he was really instrumental. He was like, you know, just quit. We'll figure out the money after.
We'll figure it out.
Like, we'll figure it out. Just quit. And so I did. And so between our first and our second training sessions, I quit my job and I went all in.
It's very obvious you went all in.
Yeah.
But it's also very obvious to me that you were meant to be a coach because, like you said, you were kind of just spinning your wheels.
Yeah.
And that's so life, right? We get caught up, you know, even I'm older and even then you see the car or the bag or whatever it is. And people think that means you've made it and that automatically brings happiness.
Yeah, some of the most miserable people I've ever met.
Right. Well, you know my story. I was in a really, really bad spot from the outside looking in. People would have killed to have that life.
Yeah.
I mean, I would go places and people were like starstruck by nonsense, which is essentially what it is. It's nonsense, right?
Yeah.
So I know, you know, and then there's the fear of leaving your job with bills to pay.
Well, it was less for me about the financials, although that was a huge stressor. It was more like, what are people going to think of me?
Right.
Because
this is the fear base. It's so good. Right.
So I was like, I've never not performed.
Right.
And whenever, you know, this is the unfortunate truth, but people be like, oh my gosh, like you're so aspirational, like you're so inspirational. Right. And I really internalized that as part of my identity. Like, I can't afford to just be a barista.
Right.
You know, like I can't take my foot off the pedal. Like, what are people going to think of me?
It's as mental as it is financial.
I think it's all mental.
I do too. I totally do.
The financial is the mental. It's what you
Right.
think about the money and what you make it mean.
Because we're just driven. You know, and people say, excuse me. People say, well, what if I fall? I'm like, well, what if you fly? And that's what got me through.
We don't give enough airtime to the possibility of success.
Right.
We just think about all the ways that we could fail.
Right. Because, and that's so amazing. That's what's so pivotal about your coaching is that this isn't working. Being here is not working for you. So let's just open your mind to the possibilities that you can do anything.
One of my favorite questions, I'm sure you use this all the time too. It's like, okay, so we know that what you're doing is not working. How much longer are you willing to do that before you're done?
Right.
Like before you're willing to try something else.
Right. Right.
Because then it requires people to come up like with an actual timeline.
Right.
Or to hear themselves say
and
out
that's
loud,
even more scary, right?
Yeah.
Because you're like, oh my God, I can't even get the garage cleaned out by that time. How the hell am I doing that?
Or to hear themselves say like, I guess this will go on forever.
It will go on forever.
Yeah.
I am living proof that if you don't get out of your own way, it will go on forever. You know?
Hard facts.
Hard facts. You know, and I think thank you for sharing that too, because that's such an amazing. So tell everybody what it felt like to quit the job, step out of your comfort zone.
This is my favorite part. So the day I told my boss that I was quitting, I thought I was going to throw up. I don't think people talk enough about like what it's like to take the leap, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, I felt leading up to that conversation, it was a 10-minute conversation,
Right.
and it can take a 10-minute conversation to change your life. But leading up to that conversation, I felt sick. Right after the conversation, I felt liberated. I felt light as a feather. And then
It was over.
It was over. I was like, the world is my oyster. I remember it was a Friday and I took myself out to like a taco bar and I sat at the bar top and I had margaritas and I called people. I was like, I quit my job.
And for the listeners to know, if you ever get a chance to drink margaritas with Talia, I highly, highly recommend it. It's on It's on one of the probably top 10 things I want to do in this world.
I love when we go out together because we're the most ridiculous people there. But it's also like such edifying conversation.
Oh my God.
That
I love
everyone just wants to be a part of it.
It's ridiculous.
That's not me. Like that is 100% you. You just have like this magnetic personality and
goodness.
everyone wants
Thank
to be
you.
your best friend. And I'm like, I was here first.
Right.
Thank you.
Just get me my margarita so I can get sauced up before Deb starts rolling.
I was like, get in line. No, it is literally the best thing ever.
And we tend to drink the same thing then,
We
right?
do. Yeah.
Right? Because I'm like, well, what are you having? It's like a 7th grade thing. What are you having? What are you having? And then we tend to drink the same thing.
It's basically.
So we're talking about how you're in the taco bar.
Yeah.
Calling
I
everybody.
was just calling people like, I quit my job. And, you know, that felt really good. The next 2 weeks felt really good. I sat down the next morning and literally Googled how to start an LLC. Like,
Right. That a girl.
Right?
That a girl.
I mean, I knew.
What did we do before Google?
I don't know.
I don't know
You
either.
probably had to talk to people.
Look it up. Right.
Or go
Look it
to-
up. I
look
remember
it
my
up in
parents
the
my whole
Dewey
life. They're
Decimal
like, look it
System.
up. I'm like, fine, look it up, shit.
Yeah. And, you know, it went really, really well for probably the first 2 weeks, maybe even a couple months. And then the no's started piling up. And, you know, I would talk to somebody and they'd be super interested. And then I would tell them how much I charged. And they'd be like, oh, it's not the right time. It's not the right time. And it was really, really hard for me to take that rejection because... And it's so funny because, you know, I was in the Marine Corps. You're told that you're a cockroach for like the first 6 months of
and then
your training.
If you go up, you move to a rat level.
Right,
from a cockroach.
right, yeah. It's a very slow progression, but but for whatever reason, because I was already feeling so insecure, about what other people would think. Every time I got a no or a rejection, it felt like a personal rejection.
Personal. Yeah, you do. You take it personal.
And that's the part of entrepreneurship, I think, that that's the part that people can't hang with.
Yeah.
And the thing is, you gotta move through that.
You have to be able to take yourself out of that person, that coach person, to your real life.
Yeah.
Because you know me, I believe you're not even a badass until someone tells you your shit.
Yeah.
Honestly.
100%.
You know, like...
If you don't have haters, like, are you even trying?
Right. Because you know somebody's watching you if you have haters.
Yeah. I had a soccer coach growing up, and he would tell us, he's like, if you don't get carded on the field at least once a game, you're not playing hard enough.
Right.
And it was true. He's like, don't get a red card, but if you're not yellow carded at least once a game,
you're not hustling.
You're not hustling. And
so tell the viewers and tell me, how do we transition out of that, I'm taking it really personally, I'm getting a lot of no's?
I think it's just building that resilience muscle.
Yeah.
Like, I can't even tell you the number of times that I was curled up in the fetal position, bawling my eyes out. And my beautiful husband would come home. He's like, here's some ice cream and some wine and whatever. And I'd be like, I failed. One of my favorite stories is I lost $9,000 in the space of like a month.
Yeah, I remember this story.
Bad coaching decisions. You know, I hired a business coach who, in retrospect, did not deliver. I started a I looked into a lead generation system. You know this story. That did not work out very well for me, and it broke me. I was like, I am the worst business coach. Like, I'm the worst entrepreneur. Who's gonna take me seriously? Aww. You know, you get rejection after rejection after rejection. I'm too busy. I can't afford it. Like, blah 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 blah. Got to talk to the wife. Oh, she's not supportive of this journey. And it's just
let's have a cheers to that. Let's count the amount of, how many times do you think you've heard that?
5 bajillion.
Okay, me too. Know. Then we're at 10 bajillion, my friend. 10 bajillion.
10
and
bajillion
by the way,
no's.
God, make a decision without your wife, for God's sakes.
Oh, don't get me started.
I'm going to tell you, if Rusty ever came to me and said he wanted to do something that was going to change his world, and I would get a second job to support it.
Yeah.
Legitimately.
I feel like I understand that people have to consult with their spouse, especially if they're on like a single income. I totally understand that.
No doubt.
The part that gets me.
We're going to be doing shots up in here, Trevor.
The part that gets me is when you tell me out of one side of your mouth that you can't afford coaching or self-improvement, and then on another side of your mouth, you just told me that you got back from a trip to Mexico to go see Hootie and the Blowfish with your wife for a week.
Are they still alive, Hootie and the Blowfish?
They are, believe it or not.
And playing in Mexico, ladies and gentlemen.
I literally had someone tell me that they got back from that trip and were simultaneously dry heaving every morning before work. That's how stressed they were.
Ugh.
And so they told me at the end of the call, like, they couldn't afford it. And I was like, so good luck.
You can't not afford it.
Good luck dry heaving for the foreseeable future.
Hydrate. Hydrate. Yeah.
And so it reminds me, not to bring too much religion into this, but there's a story in the Bible where Jesus asks this, I think he was a lame man. He asks him, do you want to be well? Do you want me to heal you? And the lame man says, yes. But it was interesting because growing up, I would hear that story. I'd be like, well, of course the lame man wants to be healed. Of course he wants. Like, why? That's such a dumb question. And the older I get, the more I realize that people are very content to not heal. They're very content to stay where they're at and never improve. And I am by no means Jesus.
Right.
But it's the concept of, do you actually want to be in a different place than you are today? Do you actually want to see the needle move? Are you willing to do what it takes to walk again?
Right.
And for a lot of people, the answer is no.
It is. You're right. Here's the question. How long? Mm-hmm. Right? You know what I tell people? That's completely up to you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they expect you as the coach to be like a magic pill.
Right. I call it a unicorn pill.
Yeah.
A unicorn pill. I'm like, damn, if I had a unicorn, you'd know I'd have one in every designer. Mm-hmm. Like, there is no unicorn pill.
No.
You have to be ready to go deep and do the work.
Hard work, yeah.
And it is hard work. But on the other side, it's amazing.
Yeah.
It is beautiful. And, it is true. And Same here. A lot of, I do some other things too, and I work a lot with some trauma victims. And, I think you have to get sick and tired of being sick and tired
1000%.
to do it and just get it, All right, I'm going to tell you this story. I've never shared this story with anybody else. Probably wasn't even more than 10 years ago. I had a friend. She had a store, a boutique. I was going through my, separation, and literally just was like, didn't realize that my identity was so attached to that marriage and to being a mom. Like, it never, and I was comfortable with just not being Deb. Like, I was just totally comfortable being like the wife figure and and she said something to me, and she was a free spirit and kind of off the wall. And sadly, she committed suicide not that long ago. And I still, to this day, remember this. She said, the day that you learn to get the fuck out of your own way, Debbie, your life is going to start.
Yeah. That's so
Now, let me
true.
tell you, at the time, I was like, are she fucking kidding me? Like, like,
Yeah.
and now it just over and over and over in my head. The day you learn to get the fuck out of your own way.
It's so true. And it's interesting because, we talk a lot about victim energy at
Yeah, a
IPEC,
lot of
right?
victim energy, right?
And people will sit there, especially the male clients that I coach, like, oh, I'm not a victim. I'm not a victim. I'm like, you are a victim when you attribute your situation to what someone else did to you or
Absolutely.
what something else is doing to you. That's when you surrender your power.
Absolutely.
And you're not responsible. Like, it's not your fault.
Right.
How you got here necessarily. Like, it's not your fault, like what other people did to you, but it's your responsibility how you're going to react.
Fix it. Yes.
It's your responsibility, no matter.
I tell my trauma clients all the time, I'm
Yeah.
like, what happened to you was not your fault. And I'm so sorry from somebody who has childhood trauma, but it is 100% my responsibility to clean this up.
Right. And to choose something different. And so, a lot of people, they'll blame the economy, or they'll blame their financial situation, or their kids, or, their self-esteem, or their boss, or a million different things for why they're at where they're at. And the true question is, so what?
So what? Right.
Or my favorite word, and what are you going to do about it? Yes, this economy is terrible.
Terrible.
Yes, your boss is toxic.
Right.
Yes, your kids are young. And what are you going to do about it?
Right. So how much longer are you going to play on that field? That's what I ask people. Yeah. How much longer are you going to play on that field?
Yes.
It's not even, to me, about breaking it down into money at that point. I want to move people forward. Yeah. I don't want to work with anybody that doesn't want to resonate with badass qualities. Like, I want you to leave every session feeling empowered. Yeah. I want you to feel like you're in control of your own life. I want you to know that your possibilities are endless. We put limitations on ourselves.
We do. And we're not even conscious of the stories that we're telling ourselves.
Right.
That have been passed down to us, or like a label's been slapped on us. Like, until you do the work to peel all that back and figure out, like, where did I learn that?
Right. Well, that's
money
where
is
the
the
fear
root of all
comes.
evil, or failure is the worst thing to ever happen to me. Like, where did I learn that?
But it's really funny because as a society, we love a Cinderella story.
Oh yeah.
We love an underdog.
Yep.
But I think we're so afraid to be vulnerable enough to tell people that, and that causes its own cycle to live in that headspace that's just totally not working out for you.
The thing is, people will often say, I'm so afraid of failure. I'm so afraid of failing. And it's like, no, you're not actually afraid of failing. You're afraid of what other people will think of you if they watch you, quote unquote, fail.
Right.
I actually don't believe there's any such thing as failure if you remove the timeline from it.
It's beautiful.
Right? Like,
it's so beautiful.
It's only a failure if that's the last thing that you did. But if it's a lesson when you choose to pick yourself back up and keep going, then it's a lesson.
Absolutely.
Right.
And we grow.
And we grow and we learn and we pivot and we do something different.
Right.
But it's only a failure if you stay there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's the problem is that, their history And it is so true. We are such creatures of habit and for sticking with things, even though they don't work.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're stuck with them. And I can tell you the most incredible thing is to hear, I didn't think I could ever do that.
Mm. I'm remembering the conversation we had the last day of the last session. Do you remember? And I was telling you, it was like, Deb, you can do this.
Yes.
Do you remember
Yeah,
that?
listen to the listener. For the listeners, I had so much self-doubt in this, right? Because I just didn't know if I could do this, if I could resonate with people. And you, my biggest cheerleader, is like, I don't know anybody you can't resonate with. Like, I've seen you, like, walk into a room and, you know, and to me, it was really about giving space for them to be able to move forward and to heal at the same time. Because all those little things, even though we're not traditional therapists, that takes a toll. You know, when you're heard no and you're still living in labels and things that hurts.
Yeah.
It hurts. And fear was totally my factor. And partly because of people like you. Look what I did. I ripped the damn Band-Aid off.
You did. You damn sure did.
I was like, you know what? But you told me I didn't need it. And you were right. And thank you for that, my friend.
Because it would be one little piece of the puzzle.
No, my goodness. You're way bigger than a little piece. But I think for all the listeners, I think it's so important to hear Talia's story and to hear my story, to know that you can do anything, anything you set your mind to. Yeah. And I tell my clients, you're one uncomfortable action away from changing your whole life.
That is so real because I could talk for a long time about this.
No, do it,
but
girl.
My thing, and again, I tend to work with a lot of men who I think are socialized to be a little bit more analytical. You know, they don't tap as much into their emotional space as they do their logical brain.
Right.
And so they spend a lot of time in like this ideating loop where they just go around and around and around and around. Like, what should I do? Like, how will I make this work? Like, blah, blah, blah. And they never get out of that swirl.
Right.
And they think that they can think their way out of it.
Right.
Like that,
Right.
They legitimately believe that. If I just think
Truth.
of a better solution, like I'll be able to figure it out and then I'll take action.
Right.
And
that doesn't work.
It doesn't work. The only way out of the swirl is to take imperfect action.
Yes.
That's the only
Is
way
it
out
comfortable?
of it. Absolutely not.
But how long does it last?
Yeah.
1 second.
Yeah.
1 second. And it's over.
Yeah.
You know, all babies toddle, they fall, you know, they don't, whatever, we all fall off of bikes, but we don't remember that because for some reason when we're young, that's a very valuable lesson, right? You know, you're going to fall, you know, you're going to get your knees dirty, you know, you're going to, we don't remember it as adults.
Because we're only celebrated for our successes.
Truth.
You know, I heard this video on Instagram and it was this girl, I think she was giving a TED talk, I forget her name, but she was talking about how as she was growing up, her dad every night around the dinner table they would go around as a family and they'd say, what did you fail at today?
Wow, that's amazing.
Right? And they would celebrate each other's failures. Great, what did you learn from that? And I was like, ooh, I'm stealing that. Like,
that's
when
amazing.
I have kids. I was like, because you're only celebrated as an adult for your successes.
Right.
And not for
And as a society, we hold those people, not me. You know me. I love an underdog. I love the whole point of this podcast was to celebrate small wins. Yeah. And the people that wear capes, we don't recognize those people. I meet the most extraordinary human beings on a daily basis that have never been celebrated, right? So their story isn't important to them, or they feel when I go, wow, thank you for sharing. That's incredible. They're like, oh, like it's almost embarrassing that we don't cultivate kindness the way that we really should, you know? And it's almost one of those things, you know, in my first marriage, and, you know, we're dear friends now, but he'd be like, listen, we're going out to dinner. I don't want you to ask the bartender where he goes to school, what his dreams are, blah, 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 blah. Like, it was embarrassing to him. Oh. And honestly, to my daughter also, right? They're like, why can't you just go out to dinner like everybody else? I was like, well, because I really do care.
Mm-hmm.
Like if I ask somebody, I really do. I really have taken an interest in them.
And you remember too.
Oh, I
Like,
remember, girl.
that's the thing.
I
It's
will
like,
never have damn dementia.
But it's no, you won't. It's one thing to ask, but it's another thing to like remember and retain and then follow up. And you are queen of that. Like that is your gifting, and it makes
Thank you.
people feel really seen.
Yes.
Like
In the hardest, and every day's a grind, right?
mm,
Is there never a day that you completely turn off? When you own your own business, you don't. There's just no way. I mean, even we're in Mexico, right? And I'm like, laptops out. And Rusty's like, cold margarita, Now, how valuable was the thing that Bradley told us?
yeah,
I'm telling
that
you.
was some truth.
Right. Not only an amazing marketing man, we need him on our side forever, right? We're going to get him that tour bus. But yes, and he told me after Mexico, but I should have listened to him before then. Yeah, we don't hold space.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me so sad when I see parents say,
Mm-hmm.
come on, go, shh, come on, go.
Yeah.
That's so damaging to a human being.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I have a full-on mental breakdown every day. So like
Daily.
this poor kid who doesn't have like any
Right.
ability to
and I'm an
communicate,
adult, right? Like I'm not, right, exactly.
Like give them a break.
Exactly. And they don't have the same outlets that we have.
No.
Like you're not going to go home and pour a glass of wine. But we're stifling people from a very young age.
Mm-hmm.
Expression is beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
We really want people to express themselves. But it is a whole crazy, and I have to, I have a shut up problem. I have a real shut up. Like Rusty will hear things. He's like, just do not engage. Do not. Because I'm like, please don't talk to our future like that. All right, let's get into the thing about coaching. Everybody asks me, coaching and money and this kind of stuff. Let's get into I feel that people never see the value in things, right? Until they they actually have it. Let's start with the self-care. Let's talk about self-love and self-care.
Yeah.
And why it is the most important thing.
I mean, it's a overplayed analogy, but the whole, idea that you can't pour from an empty cup.
Truth.
What I'm realizing more and more is people love martyrdom.
And misery loves company.
Especially women.
Yes.
Right? We love a martyr.
Yes.
And I think it's one of the most damaging things that we as women can do, right?
Agreed.
There's a difference between self-sacrifice in a moment, right? Or over even a period of time. But when martyrdom is your lifestyle,
right,
and you derive your self-worth from your martyrdom, that's when it's really damaging.
Right.
And I know a lot of women who are like, I just don't have time. And you know what? I know a lot of men who do this too.
I think I know more men than women. I'm going to be 100% honest.
I think it's pretty evenly split down the middle in my experience, but it shows up in different ways. I think women use their kids more, and men use their jobs more.
Yeah,
but
absolutely.
It's the same principle. It's the same martyrdom principle, and it goes back to that victim mindset. When you are a martyr, you're a victim.
Yes.
And that's not an empowered stance.
No.
And
it does not move you forward.
It doesn't move you forward.
Ever.
You end up resenting the people you're martyring yourself for. You end up doing things for them that they never asked you to do. And then you hold it over their head as part of this transactional relationship.
Right.
And it serves no one.
No one.
And then there's the other side of the spectrum too, where you neglect the people in your life because you're selfish, right? And you're so self-absorbed. Self-care, in my view, it's not selfish, but it has to be balanced, right?
Absolutely.
Either extreme, martyrdom or selfishness is not healthy.
Right. And to really fully be an amazing partner, an amazing business owner, an amazing parent, it is important. And Bradley and I were talking about it, and Holden, when he was in here earlier, we were talking about the burnout, how you hit that because you just can't be on 24/7.
No.
It's an impossibility.
I saw this thing that was even nature goes to sleep. for
Yes.
3 months out of the year.
That's beautiful.
You know, like winter time, like even fall, you know, it's the withering away, it's the shedding, right, of our leaves, of, you know, and then we hibernate for 3 months. And in our society, there's no opportunity for that.
Well, I think because we put a label on that, right? That you're lazy.
Yeah.
Or, I mean, I tell people, I'm like, honor yourself.
Mm-hmm. Well, even like I saw this recently, or maybe I read it somewhere. Taylor Swift, right? Like she does the most,
Right?
Right, but
the
she
most,
is like an
legitimately.
elite performer,
Yes.
an elite athlete,
Yes.
you know, and what she has to do. And maybe it was her Time magazine article, but she talks about how like when she's done with a 3-day show, you know, she literally parks herself in bed and does not move
Nice.
for like a full day.
That's great.
Except to go to the bathroom and get food. Like she talks about how like she is just in
Right.
bed,
Right.
recovering. And I'm
Right.
like, we don't.
Recovering is the word.
I'm like, we don't do that in our society.
No.
Right?
Well, because you're deemed as lazy or non-motivated, or you don't have what it takes to be in this.
Well, and even if it's not for you, like even if you're taking a break for you, you know, I know a lot of parents like, well, I got to take my kids to soccer and I got to
Right.
do this. So like you're never off,
Right.
you know?
Exactly.
And I think that could be a whole separate conversation. But the point is, yeah, recovery. We don't do a great job recovering. In the military, I could tell you we absolutely did not do a great job recovering. I probably have so many injuries that could have been avoided had we like stretched a minute, you know?
Right, exactly.
You know?
Let me grab some water and just catch my breath.
Well, not even that, but like we were performing at an elite athlete level. And there were no ice baths, there were no rub downs, there were no massages, there was no yoga.
Right.
Like it was just get up and do it the next
Let's
day.
go.
Kind of
Right.
thing.
It's a let's go mentality.
On Pop-Tarts and beer, you know? Like,
Right,
that was our
exactly.
diet of
This
champion.
is the side of the military that, ladies and gentlemen, that you don't see. But truth.
You know, that's
Well, because you're considered weak.
exactly. And like, God forbid you go to medical. You know, so it's just that mindset. Like there's no recovery. It's just perform,
Yes.
do. And the thing is, you can do that until you can't. Like it works until it doesn't.
Until it doesn't.
Everyone has a different threshold,
Right.
but everyone will break.
Absolutely. One of my favorite clients doesn't live that far from here. She is a career military, you know, and we had to really work on the fact that she's still a woman. She's still a mom.
Yep.
She's still a wife. And that there has to be a time in her head that she turns that off.
Yeah.
Because she's got all these other amazing qualities that she wasn't living the potential to for that.
Yeah. It's like a lot of hats.
It's a lot of hats. But you know what? I've always said this, you know, and I remember saying this to Rusty. I'm like, listen, you're a different person to your children than you are to your coworkers, than you are to me. We all wear different roles all day long. You know, it's the mastering of forming them all together.
Yeah.
That is like, you know, you have to get in balance. He's like, no, I think I'm the same way all the time. Like, no, trust me. You're not. I've seen you with your kids. You know, you're just a different person. And you'll see too when you're children. Yeah. You know, you morph into this person that is there to protect, to educate, to honor, to love, to, you know, just a whole different role. So that brings me to, I want to talk to you about coaching and pricing.
Oh,
right. Okay. Because here's my favorite thing. Right. And I do trauma also. Right. So that's a whole different. Talking about self-care, self-worth, the reasons that things aren't working and how you get to it. Right. The number one, once you've clearly explained to people, the number one thing comes down to the almighty buck. Let's have a little sip of wine before we can get into the money aspects. Trevor, tequila? No, I'm joking.
Just send them on in.
You know what? Just bring in a bottle.
There you go. We can make this Joe Rogan.
Right, exactly.
We'll just go 5 hours.
Right, let's just go 5 hours. Right. You know what? Get in some sandwiches too while we're at it.
There we go.
And you know what, Trevor? Get in here too, just to be fun with us. Let's talk about that.
Yeah.
You know?
What is so interesting to me and this is a harsh perspective to take, but I firmly believe that 99% of people in the United States, at least, I'm not talking about the rest of the world, but in the United States, if you have Netflix, you have disposable income.
Yes.
If you have an iPhone, you have disposable income.
Yes, agreed.
And it's a matter of prioritizations. And I think it's Alex Hermosi who talks about this. He says you don't need more time to make a decision. You need more information.
Wow.
And the information is the missing piece.
Right.
Because if someone actually believes that you can help them, like actually believes that you can change their life, they won't hesitate.
Right. You'd give up
to do what it takes, right?
everything.
There's a hesitancy there.
Right.
That
Because we can't live without the cell phone.
Right. That can only be met with additional information. Right. And that's the thing. It's like you are willing to invest in Netflix because you know that you will derive a dopamine hit.
Right.
Entertainment.
And when it rains on Sunday, you got a special place on the couch. Right.
Right. But you're willing to invest the money because you know that it's worthwhile. And I feel like, you could extrapolate that to coaching. Like you're willing to invest when you know that it's worthwhile. And if you're not willing to invest, it's one of two things. Either you're not convinced that it's going to help you and it's going to be worthwhile, or you don't value yourself enough or your pain point enough to do the investing.
Right.
But if it's painful enough,
you'll
put in the work. And I'm a really big fan of pricing higher tickets because it's not about the coach. It's about the client.
It's about the client.
It's about the investment.
Because people who pay attention.
100%.
That's from my coach, Coach Burt. People who pay attention. People who want $97 coaches get $97 worth of coaching.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what's funny? This is a little behind the scenes, but I have charged $20 an hour. I have charged $225 an hour. I have charged $575 an hour for the exact same coaching.
And which client achieved the greatest?
The $575 an hour.
Yes.
100%.
And by far, they're my easiest clients.
Oh,
the ones that I charge nothing will beat you down, blow your phone up, make you legitimately be like, I'm going to go serve Big Macs because I just can't handle this. They will do it because people, the 575 clients, they value your time and they take the tools and they run with them.
Because there's a pain point there.
There's a pain point.
They're invested in the results.
Right.
So they're going to do the damn homework.
Yes.
And they are going to do the self-reflection. And it's like their consciousness shifts to look for opportunities to heal.
Yes.
Right? Because it's so financially
It's a lot of money.
Painful.
It's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And I'm not begrudging that it is a significant investment. But you get what you pay for and you get the results that come from sometimes the most painful investments.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like if you want to live in a cheap house,
like
you're going to pay not as much money.
I tell
living
people
in a great house. So.
That if I charged $75 an hour, you're not getting the best Deb.
No.
That Deb's not doing research. That Deb's not spending hours prepping. That Deb's not, going through everything in your background so that we can make sure we're digging in on that hour that's just yours. You're getting a whole different Deb.
Yeah.
And I don't feel comfortable giving somebody a percentage of me.
Yeah.
When they're trusting me to help them get to their goal. We're partnering. We're a team.
Well, and the crazy thing is, it's actually not about the money.
It's not about the money.
At the end of the day, it's about the mindset around the money. Because I had a client who he made like $80,000 a year, and he paid, whatever the price was, but he paid it, right? I had another guy tell me he made $300,000 a year. Too expensive. And I was
Crazy.
like, it has nothing to do with the money you make. It has everything to do with your mindset.
Right. Do you want to be in the same place? That is truly, and I know it's said all the time, my biggest fear was being in the same place when I was telling you I couldn't do it last January.
That's my biggest fear now has morphed. It's getting to the end of my life and realizing I could have done more.
Right.
That to me is more terrifying than any possibility of looking stupid or
Right.
losing someone's
You've
good
grown, you've done and
opinion.
grown up, my little Talia. I'm so
Grown.
damn proud of you.
Thanks.
Right?
But
But it
that-
takes that. And you were in
Yeah.
the same limelight that I was in, you know. Everybody just saw the image of this woman walking in seemed to have it all. And I was like dead empty inside. Like dead empty. I wasn't me. I had to literally sit with myself and be like, who do you want to be in this world, Deb?
Yeah.
What do you want to do? What do you want to leave? Who's going to speak at your funeral? And what are they going to say?
Isn't it so funny? I feel like you get to a level of healing and a level of maturity where you actually start making decisions from a backwards perspective
Yes.
instead of a forward-facing perspective.
Yes.
I make all my decisions in life, including like how I got married, from the position of me in an old age home at 90 years old.
Yes.
And I had that.
That's beautiful.
But
Wait, let's have another sip of wine to that.
I'm
Because
actually
I know
out.
you and your husband. Oh, well, pour away, my
I need
friend.
a little bit more. How are you doing on?
Yeah, well, you know, if we're drinking with friends.
Okay. No, but it's so true. I had the privilege of volunteering at a couple of senior centers when I was in high school and then again in my 20s. And, you know, you talk to people who have these incredible life stories, but they're all in the same place,
Yeah.
right? And maybe their kids come to visit them, maybe
Yeah.
they don't.
Yeah.
And so I got a really interesting perspective from a really young age. Like, we're all going to end up here someday.
Yes.
What are the stories that I want to tell? And so I think about that because sometimes it's hard to see like what choice you should make when you're
Right.
standing in your present and you're looking forward toward the future.
Right.
But there's a version of us, I truly believe this, that like we can have hindsight now. Like
Yeah.
like if you stop to envision yourself in that time and place, 90 years old, wearing a diaper, walking around in a walker, right? Like looking back on your life at the decision that is in front of you today, what will you have wished that you had done? And that
Yes.
solves it immediately.
That's beautiful.
Solves it immediately.
And so true. Like, I think when you're in the grind and I just assumed my life was always going to be like that. Right? It's not till it crumbled
Yeah.
that I was like, okay, I know what's not working.
Yes.
I know what I don't want
And
to
that's
do.
a beautiful place to start. Because
Yes.
a lot of people don't know what they want, but they know what they don't want.
Right. I'm like, I know what I don't want. And I know what just feels amazing.
Yeah. Start
That was
there.
just, yeah. And you just start from there because it's true. And you do, you know, and you start to change and you're like, you know, I never, you know, because I'm 29, you know, that I just resonate as a 29-year-old. So I'm like, I got many years before I have to even think of this. But you start thinking, who are the people that I want next to me? Even with your friends, as you start to grow, you're like, who are the people that are just really important and pivotal that I feel honored and cherished to have in my circle?
Yeah.
You know, and it is so true. Yeah. So I think the thing with pricing, just to circle back to that, not that I'm convincing anybody, you know, I believe in coaching wholeheartedly. Like we said, coaches have coaches. I think with anything, you have to think, is this a financial decision that's going to put me in a better position in life?
1,000,000%.
Because you're still paying for the Netflix, you're still going out to dinner, you're still picking up your buddy's bar tab, you're still doing all that.
It's a matter of what you prioritize. Again, I hate to use Instagram, but I saw this video on Instagram and it was this guy talking to like a millionaire. And he was like, how do you make decisions financially? The guy goes, give me your backpack. He gives him the backpack and he goes, I want you to imagine that I'm a stranger and I come up to you. I say, give me $75,000 for this backpack. Most people would say no. A millionaire mindset or bajillionaire mindset, but someone who has like a different level of consciousness says, what's in the bag?
Right.
What's in the bag? Because if it's $100,000 or if it's $1 billion,
right,
75,000 is nothing.
It's nothing.
And you'll find a way,
right,
to pay that 75,000.
Right. And as an entrepreneur, we know this too, right?
Oh yeah, 100%.
You will figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, people call, you know, fear, terror, blah. I'm like, you're going to figure it out. Trust me. It never says on anybody's tombstone, holy shit. It just doesn't. You know, we stack wins, not losses. And we keep going. That is, all right. Let's have another sip of wine. Let's talk about your fabulous husband and your incredible life. And I want to hear about your puppy. Let's have.
Yes.
All right. So I met you freshly married.
2 months, yeah.
New bride.
Actually, you met me like I'd been married a month. Yeah.
I know, that's so crazy. I mean, who comes into like, I'm going to quit my job. I'm going to join I'm going to move.
Change careers.
To Nashville. And by the way, bravo on the location. I'm proud of you.
Thank you.
Change careers. And after I just got married.
You know, I like to do things all at once.
If you're going to go, girl, go big.
Go big or go home.
Go home, right. Exactly. That's me. I'm like, I don't dabble in anything. No. If I'm going to go all head first in, right? What's the worst that could happen?
I mean, you could spontaneously combust.
Right, exactly. Like, if the shit I've seen, everything's like water off a duck to me now. I'm like, that's nothing. You've seen nothing. So a month before I met you, you got married. Tell us about your beautiful, wonderful husband that I have the honor, truly the honor and privilege of knowing.
He is the best human. I know Rusty is your best human.
He is the best. Rusty is the best human, yeah. He is a lot Rusty. They're very much alike.
They're so similar.
So similar. Ward cleavers. Ward cleavers of a different feather, I think.
Yeah.
I totally see them tinkering with like shit in your house.
Oh, Ethan built me a bench.
I know.
A breakfast nook bench in our house.
I know. I love him. Yeah. He's amazing.
Yeah. No, he is truly has been a huge part of my healing journey. You know, and I had done a lot of my own work, therapy and whatnot, but it's so funny. Meeting him felt like coming home because he was such a grounding presence in my life. And, you know, I had dated quite a few military douchebags.
Right.
You know, I dated the politicians, not actual politicians, but like the staffers.
Right.
I dated the doctors and the lawyers, and you know, I could write a book.
Right. I'm sure.
About
someday we will.
Oh,
in our Eagles Green tour bus, we'll sit. Go. You and I will just start cranking.
Girl, I should have a blog about my dating history.
Right.
It was very colorful.
You know, you'd probably be saving a lot of single women right now if you did that.
You know, I should be a dating coach.
Do we have a dating coach that we went to school with?
I don't think so.
Oh my God, girlfriend.
I feel like that.
I think you'd be like such a kick-ass dating coach.
You know what? Maybe I'll pivot. But
well, maybe just add it in.
Just add it in. Yeah.
Right.
You know what's funny? Side note, a lot of business coaching that I have with like these clients ends up talking about relationships.
Of course.
Because as IPEC taught us, how you do one thing is how you do everything.
How you do everything, right.
But anyway, back to Ethan. So I think I had trained my nervous system to think that anxiety, like that fluttering in your stomach, or like that, you know, the cold sweats in your hand or whatever, like that was love, right? That's what we're taught in rom-coms, Disney movies, right? Like, it's your Prince Charming is going to come save you.
Go home and cry it out and watch a good romantic movie.
Yeah, and I think that's what I had trained my brain to, like, interpret as love. And when I met Ethan, it was, like, calm. In fact, I thought that I didn't like him because I was like, I don't feel fireworks. Like, I don't feel this like intensity. And I told my therapist that, and I was like, I'm in a relationship with this guy, and like there's no like, I was very attracted to him, but I was like, there's no like,
well, he's a handsome devil.
Oh, he's
for sure, he's a handsome devil.
He looks paramilitary, but he was not military. And
because he's
best
just
combination.
Right, and he's just so mellow and loving. He rocks. He
really is. He's my golden retriever husband.
That's awesome. I love that. That's so good. To everyone listening, man, please, if you've got an Ethan, like, get a golden retriever husband. That's incredible.
Marry a Midwesterner, marry a golden retriever husband.
Yes.
Marry blue collar, because they're going to fix everything in your house.
Right. Because the ones who, I was married to a doctor, and we didn't own a hammer. That's not a lie.
Sorry.
That's the truth. We didn't. Really okay, funny. So in the beginning, I mean, now I probably is still true. He'd be like, I have the hands of a surgeon. I'm like, we have no money. No truck is pulling in to this driveway. If you could learn to cut into a human,
you could probably hammer
a
nail
I'm
or
thinking. But, you know.
That's so funny.
He's probably going to listen to this one day and be like, Deb.
How dare you?
God, I gave you a monster house. What's wrong with you? No, he's a great man.
But Yeah, Ethan was just like this very grounding presence in my life. And I realized my therapist told me, she's like, love is not supposed, your soulmate
No,
is not supposed to make you feel anxiety.
it's
Like
supposed to
that
make you feel
fluttering.
safe.
Yeah, that fluttering in your stomach and all that, that's anxiety. And I was like, oh, that
Ugh,
explains a lot.
what? That's not what Princess Cinderella said.
Right?
Yeah,
Right?
agreed.
But yeah, I tell all my girlfriends, I'm like, find the guy who feels like coming home.
Yes, that's beautiful. I love that. And he is like coming home.
Oh, 100%. He is
Yeah.
the best human.
Yeah,
I don't.
same. Rusty. And I had done the work. I was still
Mhm.
doing the work. And then when I met him, I'm like, there's like no, how could there be like no drama?
There was no drama whatsoever.
How could this just
Yeah.
human being just have all my best intentions?
Like
be my
the
biggest
least
cheerleader.
problematic
And
ever.
like literally, he's like never a bad day, you
No.
know, like, and just be in awe to be by my side,
Mhm.
like, just crazy.
I know.
I have so much respect for the both of them,
Me too.
like, just unbelievable, and they're unsung heroes.
They really are, because I think people look at you and me, and we're the ones who are out there, on
Right.
the podcast, coaching, like doing all
Right.
the things, and they're like, "How do you do it?"
Oh,
And you're like, "I have a rock that I
a
go
rock.
to,
Legitimately
that I
a
can
rock.
stand on every night,
Yes.
and like no matter what happens, I
Yeah.
have a safe place to go back
Amen. And you know what? He gives me the freedom to be like, I can't do another day. He's like, of course you can.
to." Mm-hmm.
Of course you can.
Yeah.
You're the best at what you do. I don't think I would have had the courage to start all this
No.
without him. I don't think I would have been able to do it,
Me neither.
because, he's the first person that saw Deb as Deb.
Mm-hmm.
And that's like so amazing, right?
It really is. I wish that I had an Ethan for like every woman
Truth.
out there.
True.
And
right?
then
I had girlfriends who are like, there's just not Rusties. I'm like, dude, I feel it. I'm blessed. I'm totally
and
blessed.
then it makes me mad too, because I'm mad at myself for having dated so many
Same.
terrible people. And
I know.
What
I'm like,
was-
why did I settle?
What was wrong with you?
Why did I settle with that? Like, why did I let my life get like that when there's human beings like him?
And it's like, why didn't I love myself enough
Yes.
to expect more?
Yes. Truth.
And here's the thing, like, I know people say it and it's overplayed, but like, if a man likes you, you'll know. And if he doesn't, you will be confused. If there is any part of you that
Great.
is confused in any capacity,
Yeah.
he does not like you.
He does not like you.
Because I swear, Ethan showed up date 1, and I was the one who was like, I'm not sure, like, blah, blah, blah. He was like, okay. I remember one of our first, like, it wasn't a fight. It was like a discussion. But he was in, like, head first, like, long before I was. And I was like, I'm not ready. I have trust issues, blah, blah, blah. He's like, he texted me this. He's like, I feel like I'm standing on the roof of a really tall skyrise, and you are just climbing the stairs one floor at a time.
Wow.
And he's like, and I'll be here up at the top
That's amazing.
when you're ready.
that.
And I was like,
Yes.
I was like, okay. But it's true. Like, that man never gave me like a minute's anxiety. Does he like me? Where is
Yeah.
this going?
Same.
Like,
Rusty
all the
showed up the
things.
very first date, the
Mhm.
same human being he is today.
Yeah.
Nothing has really changed,
Yep.
except that now we're all over the place. Now there's just places everywhere. But yes, he is a lot of growing, a lot of learning, a lot of just incredible unconditional love that I didn't even think I was worthy of,
Same.
So
Same.
cheers to those men.
Cheers to
That are
those
out
men.
there.
Rusty, Ethan.
Rusty, Ethan,
we
get
love
out there
you.
and coach some other men, damn it. Right?
You know what? So this is partly why I became a coach. Sorry, I forgot to drink.
I'm going to remind you of that later.
I realized I'd actually been coaching my whole life. I'd even been coaching in the Marine Corps.
Oh, that's what people are like, damn,
But I was just
you've been
doing it
this your
for
whole
free.
Yes.
I remember I was at the basic school, which is after like the 10 weeks of basic training, but for officers, it's officer candidate school. We have 6 months of infantry training, essentially. I'd have grown-ass men sitting in the chair in my dorm, bawling their eyes out about some girl. Their mama was
Right.
sick. It was always some
You've been the
girl.
go-to girl for a long time.
I was 20 years old,
Right.
talking to like 35-year-old Chad. Wasn't that old, but like
Right.
basically,
Right.
you
You've always
know,
been the go-to
I've
girl.
always been the go-to, and I was like, I might as well get paid for this.
Shit, yes.
You know,
Shit,
I
yes.
was like, yeah. So that's just been like a thread throughout my life. I was like, I've always done this. I'm always the girl. I'm the friend who like pushes you to apply for the
Me
job.
too.
I'm the
Me
friend
too.
who pushes you to.
You can do anything. I believe
Yeah,
in you.
I'm that person.
Let's figure it out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, me too.
I'm the
Same.
I'm the pusher.
Yeah, me too. Because I just believe that, you know, consequently, I didn't believe it in myself, but I always believed it in everybody else.
That's the catch.
You know, and then you pushed me.
Mm.
That's hence the first, you know, run of the podcast.
Yeah.
I had to bring the person who got me the fuck out of my own way. And I truly, to this day, appreciate that. You're an incredible friend. So, one thing before we wrap up, I want everyone to know how they get in touch with you. You can work with this beautiful badass. Sincerely, thank you for serving this beautiful country.
Oh, thank you.
I know it takes people like you and dedication and hard work and giving up so much to keep the greatest country in the world going. So thank you.
Thank you. I always feel very uncomfortable with that.
I know.
But I appreciate it. Thank you.
You know how I feel about veterans?
I know.
I have the military. I think anybody that serves this country people do not realize what you go through to keep us safe, to be able to sit here and drink wine in a podcast, right? So how can the listeners get in touch with you? How can they work with you? How can they get more Talia?
So a couple different ways. First of all, my website, www.taliarhea.com. I'm also present primarily on LinkedIn, Talia Bastion, my maiden name, Ray. Also on Instagram, TaliaRhea_coach. Yeah, I have links to my calendar. You can book a
We'll give all the
consult and-
links to everybody. And I don't even know what to say other than I'm truly honored you were here.
Thank you so much for having me. You are literally such an inspiration to me with all the work that you're doing. I've seen you grow exponentially in such a short amount of time. And, you know, there's certain people in our coaching cohort who they left that program and they are shooting for the stars. And you are definitely one of them. And I can see such a bright future in front of you. And when you have your private plane,
Girl,
remember me. And
private. I'm parking it at your house.
there we go.
So I'm
There
getting
we
a little
go.
dog bowl for your new puppy.
Yes.
Yeah, no, because you know me. I take the people I love on my ride.
Absolutely.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you, friend.
It's a pleasure having you.